Please follow along with this video with the Digits 1-5 Guided Notes handout. You're going to turn this in when I return, and there will be a skills test tomorrow over what you've learned from 1-3, 1-4, and 1-5, so make sure you pay close attention. Two nosy neighbors constantly try to outdo each other. Neighbor 1 mows her lawn in 1 3/4 hours. Neighbor 2 insists she's faster and she took 2 1/4 hours. Who's correct? Show how you know. So I want you to pause the video and see if you can figure it out on your own before you press play. If you get stuck, press play. The first thing you want to do to compare who's actually faster would be to take the square feet and find the square feet per hour, which means you want to take the number of square feet and divide that by the amount of hours for each neighbor. So for neighbor 1, you'd take 4,200 divided by 1 3/4. But that's not easy to work with because 1 3/4 is a mixed number, so you'd want to change it to an improper fraction, which would be 4,200 over 7/4. So this is a complex fraction, which means we need to flip the denominator or find the reciprocal and multiply by 4,200, which would make it 4,200 over 1 times 4 over 7. That equals 16,800 over 7, which equals 2,400 square feet per hour. So you're going to do the same thing for neighbor 2. Try it now, pause the video, and press play when you're ready to check your work. So you needed to take 5,400 divided by 2 1/4 hours, which is 5,400 divided by 9 over 4. And when you multiply and take the reciprocal, you get 21,600 over 9, which also equals 2,400. That means that they both mowed the lawn in the same exact amount of time, which means no neighbor was faster than the other. So now you need to answer the reflect question. How were unit rates useful in this problem? And explain. So why was it useful to find the number of square feet per hour? How did that help us solve the problem? The next example question has 3 parts. We're going to start with part A. It says, what is the ratio of the length of the tile to the length of the board? Well, the tile has a length of 1/4 feet, and the board has a length of 1/4 of a yard. So in order to make that ratio, we need to make them both into feet. If you remember from what we talked about earlier, there are 3 feet in a yard. So in order to turn the 1/4 yard into feet, we're going to multiply it by 3. So if we take 1/4 times 3, we get 3/4 feet. Now that we know that the board is 3/4 of a foot long, we can create our ratio. The ratio is going to be the length of the tile to the length of the board. So we know the length of the tile is 1/4 of a foot, and we know that the length of the board is 3/4 of a foot. So our ratio is 1/4 to 3/4. Well, this is a complex fraction, so in order to simplify it, we're going to flip the second fraction and multiply. So it's 1/4 times 4/3, which equals 4/12. We can simplify that by dividing each of those by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. So the ratio of the length of the tile to the length of the board is 1/3. Part B says, what is the ratio of the area of the tile to the area of the board? So we need to find the area of the tile and the area of the board in feet. For the tile, all we need to do is take 1/4 times 1/6, because to find the area of a rectangle, all you need to do is length times width. 1 times 1 is 1, 6 times 4 is 24. So the area of the tile is 1/24. For the board, we first need to convert our yards into feet. To do that, we're going to take 3 times the number of yards. So for the length 1/4, we're going to take 1/4 times 3, which is 3/4. Then we are going to find the width in feet. We're going to take 1/6 times 3, which is 3/6, or a half. Either way will work. 3 times 3 is 9. 6 times 4 is 24. I'm going to simplify this by dividing both of those numbers by 3. I will get 3/8. So now I'm ready to make my ratio. We have to make a ratio of the area of the tile, which is 1/24, to the area of the board, which is 3/8. That's another complex fraction. So we're going to flip and multiply 1/24 times 8/3, and we get 8 over 72. I can divide 8 and 72 by 8, and I end up getting 1/9. So the ratio of the area of the tile to the area of the board is 1/9. Now for part C, it says how many tiles will fit on the board without overlapping. Well, if the ratio of the area of the tile to the area of board is 1 to 9, that means that for every one board, we would have 9 tiles, which means we can fit 9 tiles on the board. Now it's time for you to try. It says the image on the digital camera screen is 1.5 inches by 1 inch. When the image is printed, it's 1/2 feet by 1/3 feet. What is the ratio of the area of the image on the camera screen to the area of the print? Don't forget that you need to change your feet into inches first before you find your areas. Then create your ratio. Go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to try it on your own, and then press play to check your answer and see how you did. So first you're going to figure out the area of the image on the camera screen. So you take 3/2, which I got that by changing 1.5 into an improper fraction, and multiply that by 1, length times width, and that gives us 3/2 square inches. Then you're going to change your feet into inches by multiplying by 12. So 1/2 times 12 is 6, and that makes sense because 6 inches is the same thing as 1/2 of a foot. 1/3 of a foot is going to be 4 inches. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So to find the area of the print, you just take 6 inches times 4 inches, and that equals 24 square inches. Now we need to make the ratio of the area of the image on the screen to the area of the print. So we'll start with the area 3/2 over 24, which again is a complex fraction. So we're going to flip the 24, and we don't really see anything under it right now, but there's a 1 there, so it becomes 1 over 24, and we're going to multiply. 3 times 1 is 3, 2 times 24 is 48. When we simplify, we get 1 over 16, which means the ratio is 1 over 16. On Monday, you and your dog run to a park 2 1/4 miles from your house. It takes you and your dog 18 minutes to run to the park and 24 minutes to run home from the park. On Tuesday, you run the entire 4 1/2 miles at a constant speed of 6 1/4 miles per hour. On which day did your run take less time? In order to solve this problem, we first need to figure out how long it took on Monday for you and your dog to get to the park. So you have 18 minutes and 24 minutes, so you just need to add those together. That adds up to 42 minutes. Now for Tuesday, we want to use the formula distance equals rate times time. You might have heard of this formula before. It's something that helps us solve for either distance, rate, or time. In this problem, we know the distance is 4 1/2 miles, and we know that the rate is 6 1/4 miles. So for D, we are going to put the distance. I'm going to change it into an improper fraction. So 9 over 2. That's our distance because it says miles. 2 times 4 is 8 plus 1 is 9. That's how I got that. Now we also know the rate. That's the same thing as speed. 6 1/4 miles per hour. So we'll take 4 times 6, which is 24, plus 1 more, which is 25, and make our improper fraction. And we're going to put T for time because we don't know how much time it took. That's what we're trying to figure out. In order to get t by itself, we are going to divide both sides by 25/4. On the left side of the equation, that's going to give us a complex fraction. On the right side of the equation, we're going to cancel these out and t will be by itself, which means we'll have our time. So we have this complex fraction, 9/2 over 25/4 equals t. We're going to flip and multiply, so 9/2 times 4/25, and that will give us 36/50. We can simplify that by dividing both sides by 2, 18/25. That's the number of hours, so 18/25 of an hour. So now we just need to figure out how many minutes that would be. If we take 60, which is the number of minutes in an hour, and then we multiply that by 18/25, that will tell us the exact number of minutes. So we can make it 60/1 times 18/25, and we end up getting 1080 over 25, which equals 43.2. And that would be minutes. So it says, on which day did your run take less time? It would take a little bit less time on Monday, because Monday was 42 minutes and Tuesday was 43.2 minutes. Now I want you to try the got it question. It says you are parked 7/8 of a mile from the football stadium. You walk at a constant speed of 3 1/4 miles per hour. The game starts in 14 minutes. Will you make it to the stadium before the game starts? Explain. So again, you want to use that distance equals rate times time formula. You have a distance of 7/8. You have a rate of 3 1/4. Plug the numbers into the formula and solve just like the previous problem. Press pause and then play when you're ready to check your answer to see how you did. So the first thing you should have done was written down your formula. Distance equals rate times time. The distance is 7/8 of a mile, and the rate is 13/4 miles per hour. We don't know the time. To get 13/4, I just changed 3 1/4 into an improper fraction. To get time by itself, I divided both sides by 13/4. That would cancel out here to get t by itself and give us a complex fraction. So we have 7/8 divided by 13/4 equals time. Flip and multiply, and you end up getting 28 over 104 hours. But that doesn't help us find the number of minutes. We need to multiply 28 1/04 times 60 to figure out how many minutes. It would end up taking 16.15 minutes approximately, which means you won't make it to the game before it starts.
You and your friends are making 4 different batches of the same soup. How much of each ingredient do you need to complete each batch?
This is the end of part 1 of the video. You'll need to click on part 2 to start the next part of the video to finish this worksheet. Make sure you're showing all of your work and trying your best.